This is Shane, WX0X with Arkansas AUXCOMM, and this is your standard operating procedure training for storm spotters. Thank you for viewing the Arkansas AUXCOMM YouTube channel. This video is just one of the many planned to bring topics of interest to the Arkansas radio amateur in the realm of emergency communications. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss any future content offerings. This training is current as of version 5 of the Arkansas AUXCOMM SOP, which was released in February 2026 and is intended to take us through the 2026 severe weather season. We have a lot to cover during this training. The intent of this video is to cover the main points as they concern SKYWARN storm spotters and their interaction with the Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN net. This training, along with National Weather Service storm spotter training, is intended to be enough to successfully participate in net operations. This is part of our continuing commitment to provide well-trained spotters and net controls to gather storm reports and data for the National Weather Service. In the past, there has always been training for storm spotters from the National Weather Service, but nothing for their interaction with amateur radio. We hope you'll find this training useful, and as a result, we will all see an improvement in our capability of our SKYWARN nets statewide. Why are we providing training for amateur radio operators? Well, this training is a way for us to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Imagine a long-track, violent tornado going through a populated area in the state of Arkansas. During times like these, amateur radio operators can be expected to be anxious, fearful, and nervous. We are providing this training as a baseline to allow the net to operate efficiently and accurately even during an event such as the one in this example. The net must be orderly to provide the best information to the National Weather Service so that they may issue warnings that protect lives and property in the state of Arkansas. Most of the time, we will not operate in conditions like those I just described, however. On average, we have a few significantly damaging storms in the state each year, but the tone of the net is always set by the net control. The best way to be sure you're doing your utmost as an amateur radio-capable storm spotter is to listen to the tone being set by the net control operator. The net control operator has information at their fingertips and will let the net participants know what they need during the net. Often, the tone will be less serious than the content reflected in this training, but the net control sets the tone based on the weather and workload situation. Training also lends credibility to the program. All using agencies want to know that we conduct ourselves in a manner that reflects the seriousness of the work being done. SKYWARN isn't the only kind of MCOM amateur radio in Arkansas participates in, but the slogan, "Ham Radio Saves Lives," can definitely be applied to the SKYWARN program. Finally, this training is intended to let you know what to expect from the net and lessen the confusion for all participants. This video does not encompass the entire contents of the Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN SOP, since a great deal of it is not applicable to storm spotters. This video is not intended as a replacement for reading the AUXCOMM SKYWARN SOP that can be found at www.arkansasauxcomm.org. At a minimum, we suggest that you read at least the storm spotter section, the net operations procedures, and Appendix 3. Of course, the most complete understanding can be found by reading the entire 25-page document. The Arkansas AUXCOMM network consists of hundreds of amateur radio operators communicating ground truth, damage reports, and requested data through the network to warning decision makers at the National Weather Service. Arkansas AUXCOMM is not affiliated with any amateur radio club or organization. All licensed amateurs are encouraged to participate. This is one of our biggest advantages. Our network is diverse, owned by multiple willing entities, and is truly a coalition of the willing. Each station connects to and disconnects from the Arkansas AUXCOMM network as it best benefits the amateur radio operators in their served area. The network also allows for mutual support and network redundancy not afforded through other methods. The Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN net can be operated from any capable amateur radio station. This allows our net controls to be geographically separated so that we may pull willing and capable net control volunteers from across the state. Also, this means that our net control operators can pass net control duties to another station should the severe weather threaten their location, increasing our resilience when severe weather strikes. Reports are relayed to the National Weather Service via their instance of Slack. This is where AUXCOMM net controls receive information about the weather situation as it materializes. The Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN net has specific net activation criteria. These criteria are important to discuss because net activation may not seem intuitive to spotters. For instance, just because there's an isolated severe thunderstorm warning does not mean the net will begin. Weather conditions have to be significantly severe enough to dictate the need to commit volunteer resources to net activation. Because severe events can span a significant amount of time and geography, this is done to enhance our coverage during the most significant severe weather. While we have a large list of volunteers, we will always act to make the best, most efficient use of their time. Net activation criteria are as follows. The net will be activated on the affiliated repeater systems when the National Weather Service issues a particularly dangerous situation, severe thunderstorm, or tornado watch. These situations are generally expected to escalate quickly to dangerous levels, and early activation will allow for sufficient lead time. Secondly, at the first issuance of a tornado warning in the affected county warning areas of the state, we may activate the net ahead of a warning issuance if there is a credible report or radar indication of the imminent issuance of a tornado warning. Thirdly, we will activate for severe thunderstorm warnings that cover a significant part of the county warning area. For instance, when a squall line is moving across the area and creating a major threat of dangerous conditions. Also, we will activate for severe thunderstorm warnings issued with enhanced wording in the statement. For example, particularly dangerous situation, tornado possible, or destructive. We will always activate at the request of the National Weather Service warning coordination meteorologist, regardless of the weather situation. Finally, we may activate by order of the volunteer coordinator or his designee. This is likely to happen unless there's severe weather situations that are expected to rapidly escalate or when net control training is ongoing. The net will be deactivated on the repeater system once severe weather has exited the area covered by the repeater system and in consultation with the volunteer coordinator. In addition to this training, you should seek out other sources of information regarding storm spotting. The National Weather Service offices serving Arkansas offer basic storm spotter training at locations throughout the state, mostly in the spring. We will announce basic storm spotter training dates during each AUXCOMM test net every third Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. You can also find basic storm spotter training online at meted.ucar.edu. Advanced storm spotter training is offered by some offices, but rarely in person. Resources for advanced training can be found online, mostly on YouTube. There are many resources out there to teach you the science behind severe weather, and we encourage you to learn as much as you can in preparation for what you may see in the field. Storm spotting can be dangerous because you're out in the environment and may be subjecting yourself to hazardous weather conditions. Warning: it is the expectation and responsibility of storm spotters to ensure their own safety. Your safety is first and foremost. Do not put yourself in danger to provide a storm report. Storm chasing or mobile spotting are not requested or condoned by the Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN network or the National Weather Service. Caution: spotters are expected to know and adhere to good amateur practice, the instructions in net control, and this SOP because of the seriousness of the work being done. Violation of these requirements can be grounds for being suspended or banned from participation in the net. We understand that everyone makes mistakes. People will be afforded an opportunity to learn and grow in our system, but all amateurs must do their very best to contribute constructively to the net. In other words, we expect volunteers to accept feedback and improve, and not to disrupt, either intentionally or repeatedly unintentionally. Net control has ultimate responsibility for control of the net. Net control duties can be quiet, but it can also be busy and stressful, dependent on the weather situation and the pace of the event. Poor repeater reception, poor operator technique, and incomplete reports make things worse. If you work to know what to do and when to do it and do it right the first time, you can make net control's job easier. In general, the best spotters say the least on the radio and know what to say and when, which is why this training is practical and important. Complying with net control instructions is required, and listening is the best way to know what's needed. Our net controls know and will uphold the standards written in the SOP. The other side of the spotter training coin is what we train the net controls. We train them so that they operate in as standard a way possible so that you know what to expect from them. Knowing the SOP is as important for the spotter as it is for the net control. It allows the net control to use standard terms that are understood by all so that they may set an appropriate tone for the situation. The best way to know how things are going on the net is listening before transmitting. A lot can be said for being able to read the room. We need volunteer net controls. It is indeed challenging, but it is also rewarding to know that you are using your amateur radio license and equipment to provide a vital public service. SKYWARN is the one routine form of emergency communications amateur radio consistently provides in Arkansas, and the potential is there to do it all year round. There are only a few short months where severe weather is unlikely in the state, and even those are not for sure. As net control, you bring the experience and we provide the training. You can start by taking storm spotter training and learning as much as you can about the weather that affects the state of Arkansas. It is also important to have outside net control experience. We suggest volunteering to run your local club social net and becoming accustomed to copying information over the radio. Contact any AUXCOMM SKYWARN net control to discuss becoming a volunteer. We will ask you to run an AUXCOMM test net and provide guided, hands-on training during a live AUXCOMM SKYWARN net as part of the process. Most of all, we will be sure you are comfortable before putting you on the air by yourself for the first time. Consider volunteering. We can definitely use your help. Until the previously discussed criteria for net activation are met, the net will not yet be in operation. Repeater systems in the affected area will be monitored until such time as net activation criteria is met. Repeaters will be in normal use. When criteria are met, net control will transmit. All stations, please stand by for activation of the Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN net over the SKYWARN hub node and any connected repeaters. This will be the cue that the net will begin and all routine traffic should stop. If your repeater or node does not intend to participate in the net, this will be the cue to disconnect from 65017. On-air check-ins are of some value during a SKYWARN net, as they are a source of information as to spotter position and serve as an opportunity for individual stations to test equipment ahead of the need to contact net control. Unfortunately, however, check-ins can interfere with net operations if they're conducted at an inopportune time. In fact, many times in the past, on-air check-ins have led to much consternation for net control with higher priority traffic. As a result, on-air check-ins will only be accepted at the discretion and instruction of net control. Said plainly, don't check in on the air unless you're invited to do so by the net control. Caution: under no circumstances will on-air check-ins be taken during an active tornado warning situation. During tornado warnings, net control will routinely use this script to let you know that check-ins are not welcome. For instance, this is WX0X net control for Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN, reportable criteria only, no check-ins. When check-ins are appropriate, net control will ask for them. Doubles are anticipated. Give your information slowly and clearly and at a pace easily hand-copied by net control. Also, we strongly encourage the proper use of ITU phonetics. For example, net control, this is Shane, WX0X, Whiskey X-Ray 0 X-Ray in Cabot, mobile. Pause a second or two between check-ins to allow net control to break in if necessary. Warning statements and other situations may necessitate net control to break in. If net control says stand by, all check-ins will immediately cease until net control asks for them to begin again. Check-ins will be acknowledged at the discretion of net control based on the weather situation and workload. You can verify your check-in on ham.live at your discretion. Either net control or their logger counterpart will make sure all check-ins are on ham.live. If you relocate from your previously stated spotting location, let net control know your new position if it has changed markedly. Do not give a play-by-play of your position. If you are moving somewhere specific, just tell us where you are going. It is also not necessary to call net control for permission to secure your station. As a reminder, on-air check-ins are entirely at net control's discretion and may be precluded for the entirety of the net. The net control will help you identify when check-ins will not be allowed in the following manner. For instance, this is WX0X, Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN, no check-ins. Like I said before, on-air check-ins can be disruptive if they're conducted at the wrong time, especially when the situation is busy and the weather worsening. As such, the repeated violation of the check-in policy is grounds to be suspended or banned from participation in the net. Everyone is responsible for listening before transmitting. Arkansas AUXCOMM uses ham.live for online check-ins. To the max extent possible, the Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN net would prefer online check-ins during live SKYWARN nets unless you are mobile. Instructions for the use of ham.live can be found in the SOP, or you can watch a video on the ham.live website that gives instructions for its use. You will see a chat feature within ham.live. You are welcome to use this chat to socialize with other participants in the net. However, it is very important that it never be used to place a SKYWARN report, as net controls may miss your report here. You can place relevant severe weather photos in the chat, however. Net control or AUXCOMM staff will forward them to the National Weather Service as necessary. You can also use the chat to let net control know you have secured your station if you choose. Quality and completeness of reporting is a primary concern. In fact, it's the reason why we're here. This is why weather knowledge, in whatever way you get it, is so vital. However, not only the content of the report matters. You must also formulate a complete report in your head before you key the mic. Speak clearly and calmly and report only what you see. If you think you're seeing something but you are unsure, tell net control. There's no shame in being unsure. Perhaps we can get verification from a nearby spotter. When you report, use your knowledge from your storm spotter training to guide you, especially when it comes to your relation to the storm updraft and downdraft. Your spotter training also gave important guidelines for estimating hail size and wind speed. When you report, give us your location in reference to a well-known intersection, preferably using primary roads. You can also tell us your community or locality or a distance and direction away from that place. If you're on an interstate highway, always give your nearest mile marker. Noting this before you reach your storm spotter location may be necessary. Be as accurate as possible without giving up too much detail. Every moment you stay on the mic is another moment a different, more important report may not be reaching us. Please be brief. Finally, listen to net control's readback and wait to see if we have any follow-up questions. Often, the NWS forecasters will ask for a specific question that only you can answer. Secondhand reports often reach the National Weather Service faster through ham radio than they do via public service dispatch. If you hear a secondhand report, tell net control that it's secondhand. Tell us what agency reported it and the time you heard the report. Do not report anything from television, YouTube live chaser feeds, the internet, or commercial radio. There have been times where something reported via ham radio comes back to us via ham radio. The television stations listen to us, report what we said, then inevitably one of you will report it back to us secondhand. Let's stop the loop. Also, keep in mind that YouTube chasers make money off of being sensational. They drive engagement by being loud and amplifying or exaggerating the threat. We've already seen at least one false report as a result of listening to live YouTube feeds. In every severe weather event, there are occurrences such as storm sirens, heavy rain, lightning, high winds below severe limits, and power outages that can be considered normal or expected for the situation. Do not report these types of events to net control. Our reportable criteria list reflects that which you were taught in your National Weather Service Storm Spotter training. In general, this list encompasses what we consider to be a worthwhile report when net control says reportable criteria only during a SKYWARN net. A tornado. And remember, the only way a tornado can be confirmed is when you see the circulation touching the ground via the presence of circulating debris. Otherwise, it's a funnel cloud and should be reported as such. Funnel cloud. If it's a funnel cloud, it needs to be rotating. Remember that there are many funnel cloud lookalikes. If you aren't sure, tell us. No harm in being unsure. Airborne debris. Let us know if it's falling debris you're seeing or debris that looks to be involved in a circulation. Wall cloud. Be sure to note if you can see rotation. If you cannot, tell us. Perhaps we can confirm with another nearby spotter. Hail in excess of 1 inch or quarter size. Designate hail reports in reference to commonly known objects. A list of those objects can be found in National Weather Service Storm Spotter training. If you forward a picture to us, put a common object in the picture with the hail for scale reference. Winds in excess of 58 miles per hour. Include whether the wind is a measurement or just estimated. To be measured, it must come from an installed weather station with an anemometer. Otherwise, consider it estimated. When you are estimating, let us know why you think it is that speed. If you're witnessing it doing damage, tell us what you see the wind doing. For example, pulling the shingles off the roof of a house across the street or felling large trees. Finally, flooding. National Weather Service has specifically asked us to be better at reporting flooding. In general, we would like to hear about observed overflow or inundation by water that is causing or will cause damage and/or a threat to life. Remember, one of our biggest rules is listen before transmitting. The AUXCOMM SKYWARN net has 3 general conditions that tell you what sort of reports we are looking for in any situation. Please also note that Net Control may also request reports from a specific spotter or location in the affected area, so listen up for your call sign or location to be requested. Net Control will state when all reports will be accepted. There will be times when we want to know when conditions less than reportable criteria are occurring. When Net Control states all reports, we are looking for any reports of severe thunderstorm-related phenomena. Damage reports are welcome during this time. Net Control may also restrict reporting to reportable criteria only at their discretion as the weather situation changes. It is assumed during tornado warnings, all net operations will be no check-ins, reportable criteria only. Listen up. The only way to know what status the net is in is by listening to Net Control. In the absence of clear information as to the status of the net, radio silence is always best until you observe reportable criteria. When the net is in reportable criteria only status, hold damage reports until after the net returns to all reports status. Rarely, Net Control may limit reporting to emergency traffic only. Emergency traffic is limited to life-threatening situations only. For example, like the Mayflower-Valonia tornado in 2014, where a long-track violent tornado was on the ground for almost 50 miles. In this situation, Net Control will identify and include the words emergency traffic only. Unless you have first-hand or solid second-hand report of a life or death threat, maintain radio silence. We are attempting to keep the net clear for reports regarding the ongoing emergency situation. Net Controls will read warning statements as they come from the National Weather Service. As soon as they are issued, warnings automatically flow to NWS Slack, and Net Control will often be reading them at the same time the Weather Service forecaster is reading the statement into public service radios and television stations are receiving their first notification. Always have multiple ways to receive warning information from the National Weather Service, as these statements are a critical lifeline for your safety. NOAA Weather Radio, cell phone apps, and text notification services all provide good backups. In the interest of conserving airtime, the entire statement will not be read. Rather, a standardized, abbreviated statement is used. If you're interested in how our Net Controls are trained to read weather statements, see the SKYWARN SOP section on the subject. In general, Net Control reads the type of statement, for instance a tornado warning, the counties affected, expiration time, and storm location. We do not read the lengthy locations impacted include portion of the statement. Also note that we will not provide this information on request either, as it eats up valuable airtime. Spotters should have a good knowledge of Arkansas County and city geography before participating in the Arkansas AUXCOMM SKYWARN net. Contingencies are always possible, and we do our best to address them. Since our Net Controls are subject to the same dangerous weather conditions and have personal emergencies of their own, we must always have a backup. Subject to appropriate staffing levels, we will always have a primary and secondary Net Control scheduled. In fact, we also have mutual support agreements in place that will allow us to use Net Controls from outside the region if necessary in an emergency. If there's a change in net control, we will be sure to make it obvious there has been a change. If there is a problem with the All-Star connected network, our net controls, staff, and local repeater owners and trustees will attempt to reconnect the AUXCOMM hub. If a reconnect is not possible, we are in effect left with the same SKYWARN system we had before AUXCOMM, local nets run by local net controls. If you have a station that would be willing to run a local SKYWARN net, please begin to operate one as soon as you lose connection. If at any time after that moment the network comes back, the local net control will allow AUXCOMM net control to resume normal operations. One of the best changes to SOP version 5 was the Storm Spotter Quick Guide. It's at the very end of the SOP, and we encourage you to print it out and leave a copy near your operating location. It summarizes the key points of the SOP, some of your Storm Spotter training, and this presentation. It's a good refresher and will help you collect your thoughts ahead of a live SKYWARN activation. One thing is for certain, severe thunderstorms and their attendant hazards will visit us somewhere in Arkansas this year. Through your engagement, enthusiasm, and preparedness, we will be successful in protecting lives and property. We will hope that the worst weather spares us this year, but if it doesn't, we can go forward knowing we are ready. Thank you for watching this presentation and the Arkansas AUXCOMM YouTube channel. I'm Shane, WX0X, one of your Arkansas AUXCOMM net controls. 7-3 everyone.